Hello, this is Nicholas Tanek from Your Kinky Friends. I have a wonderful, wonderful guest tonight. She is a online dominatrix. She's done some personal sessions, but she's into some interesting things. Like we're going to talk chastity. We're going to talk foot worship and foot domination. We're going to talk coerced by. We're going to talk camming. We're going to talk artistic eroticism and a whole bunch of other stuff. Please welcome Miss Cabrel.
Hey, Cabrel. Close enough. Hi.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, as you said, I am an online dominatrix. I have been in the cam world for about 6 years now, but I have been into femdom and BDSM for about 2. I'm very much the one that, until recently I was kind of hiding in the background, but I've been having people approach me lately being like, hey, let's talk. So here I am.
Okay, great. So one thing I like to start off with is that you're obviously out as a kinky person, and tell us about your first time like being in front of people and being proud to be kinky and being out as a kinky person.
So I had been on Night Flirt for a little while by that point. Night Flirt was just kind of one of those, I got on there just to see if I could do it. And when I realized that, okay, I can do it, I've never really hidden, what I do from people. It's not something that I feel like I should have to hide. And most of my little in-group in my family are pretty understanding of it. And I remember there was a day that my mother, my grandmother, and I were all on the phone with each other. And they just kind of started talking about like, oh, what are you doing for work? You haven't talked about work in a while. And I was like, huh, let's talk about that. So I just kind of outed with it. I was like, well, I work on a phone sex site. And, I had no real desire to work a job because like I'm epileptic, so it's really hard for me to get into it anyway when it comes to work. And that was like the first real time that I was out is kinky, and that was still when this was just a job for me. It was something that evolved over time into my actual personal life, but that was the first time that I came out and said, well, I work on a phone sex site and I do online domination. And both of them were just like, oh, okay, cool. And neither of them had an issue with it. They knew that I was camming before that. So I guess I'm like one of the few who can just come out and say that kind of thing. And people very rarely come at me with, well, so
wait, let's talk about Night Flirt for a second.
mm-hmm.
Some people don't know what that is. Yeah. It's video, right? It's like video phone sex.
It can be. You have the option of doing either one, so phone or video.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how you got started. You got started professionally with Night Flirt.
Yes.
So the camming and the phone sex and the online domination, sometimes in-person domination. This is your full-time job.
It is now, yes.
Okay, great. So let's start with phone sex is interesting. Shout out to the women at peplove.com. They're basically our sponsor. It's crazy. They're great. Yeah, they're like kind of phone sex counselors, kinky counselors.
Cool.
Sarah Miles, check her out. So there's an art to phone sex. Just talking on the phone with your boyfriend or girlfriend, like, not having to pay for it. There's an art to it, wouldn't you say? Do you have a certain process or a certain technique?
I'm very, very different than a lot of the girls on that site. I do not offer my callers orgasms unless I say that they can have them. So I think that I've probably had an actual like phone sex session in the entire 2 years I've been doing it, maybe 4 times. So the art, quote unquote, that I have for that is that if you are into something like chastity, and you're the type of person that really enforces it, that's the kind of advice that I would have, is more for people towards chastity, because it's more of an art to be able to work on a phone sex site and not give men orgasms than it is to be one on there that offers that kind of thing. So it's difficult. Don't get me wrong. It's very difficult. And when I do have sessions that, I allow them to have orgasms, it's very much about the tone of voice that you're using. And I actually think that that matters more than anything, because they can tell when you're nervous or they can tell when you're not into it. So you need to listen to yourself before you even try it on the phone.
So when you say you had a 4,
Mhm.
something like that this year, that means they've only 4 people came, or do you have tons of other calls where you just don't let them come?
4 people were allowed to come on the phone with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What would you say your specialties are? Because femdom and being either an online dominatrix or a personal dominatrix, it's vast. I mean, everything from chastity to sadism to cock and ball torture to pegging and everything like that. So, what would you say your specialties are?
Well, chastity is definitely number one, just for the very reason of, I don't get off on listening to people panting and moaning on the phone. So that was kind of my intent anyway in going into chastity. But it ended up becoming a lot more than that, So chastity is definitely number one for me. I'm really big into humiliation, and that ties hand in hand with about everything else that I enjoy and that I have specialty in. And foot fetish has become one of my core 4, which really surprised me, because that was not something that I expected to get into. Like, I started knowing what it was, but it wasn't something that I practiced until I went, wow, a lot of people are into this. So I tried it, and now it's huge. It's huge for me now. It's one of my most requested now. So it's, I ended up studying a lot of that, and now I'm really into it. And let's
We'll
see.
talk about that. And I'm not really a foot fetishist, but I understand it, especially stocking feet and feet and heels.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand it, but it's probably, I mean, I could be wrong, but it's probably one of the largest fetishes in the world.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, let's talk about, okay, we'll talk about foot fetish first. So you say you're specialized in foot domination. Now, tell us, like, what do you do? How do you dominate someone with your feet?
Well, a lot of it, especially online, is somebody comes to me and they say, "Hey, can I see your feet?" Well, first off, what are you going to do for me? And when they come up with something good enough, it starts off with just general pictures. Even if it's just literally me sitting in the kitchen and being like, okay, I'm just going to take a picture of what I'm wearing, on my feet, and I'll take a picture, and then it slowly grows over that process, depending on specifically what they're looking for and how obedient they're being. But it starts with that. It'll start with pictures, and sometimes it'll grow into videos, again, depending on them. And a lot of the time, I'll tell them, okay, if you want this specific thing from me, then you have to do this first. And it'll be any sort of task, and 9 times out of 10, especially with foot domination, I'll tell them, I want you to take a picture of your feet and send them to me. And not a lot of the times they'll be like, oh no, that's weird. And I'm like, you're into foot fetish, I want to see it.
No.
So
a lot of the guys' feet, like, disgusting.
yes. I will be totally straight up honest with that. And that's where the humiliation comes in too, is because 9 times out of 10, they're just as much into humiliation as they are into my feet. So they'll send me pictures like that, and I'll spend 20 minutes laughing at them and degrading them before I even get to anything to do with my feet. And they love it. The ones that keep coming back to me are fucking addicted to that. So
Are you like, do you make them like scrub their feet, like, because they have like callousy?
I've done that. I have made somebody take a video of them cleaning their feet and sending it to me, and then I'll give them something of mine.
What about what about, like, because some people have hairy toes? You make them shave their toes.
See, I have done that once, and I have been wanting to do that again. So I'm kind of waiting for somebody to come along that I can do that to again.
Lynn, all my story with Lynn. She would make me shave my toes all the time. You make me shave my toes all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about humiliation. You're
Yeah.
saying that humiliation is a big part of that. What is one of the most humiliating things you made someone do, or what is some way you humiliated someone like that? The most humiliating thing that you can think of.
Most humiliating thing I can think of. Huh. So back when I was still doing like hardcore type stuff before I got into the idea of, okay, none of you are coming on the phone with me, there was a guy that legitimately angered me, and he had been around for a while. So I think to me it's funny, to him it was humiliating. I had him in a store buying tampons and lubrication, and he was in the bathroom of that store, just putting these tampons up his ass. And I was going, I can't believe you actually said yes to that. And he, like, every now and then, like, he was taking video, but mostly it was on the phone, and I was getting paid per minute while he was doing this. But when he got the opportunity, he was taking video and he was sending it to me to prove he was actually doing it. And people would come in the bathroom, and he'd have to run and hide in the one stall in the men's bathroom and wait for whoever it was to leave, and then he would come back out. And it's not like he was doing it in the stall. He went in the bathroom, and he was just doing it freely in the bathroom until somebody came in, and he would have to bolt into the stall. So he only had about like a half a second to realize, oh gosh, somebody's coming in here. And that I don't do a whole lot of that anymore, just because of now I'm a lot more conscious of what you do in public and how you can get caught. But that right there was probably the most humiliating I had done to somebody, because I, like, by the time he got home, like, he called me back and he was half in tears going, I can't believe that you just made me do that in public. I'm like, you know what, be thankful I let you do it in a bathroom. Like,
Not get arrested in the middle of the store.
exactly.
But it's funny that you mentioned the tampon thing in the ass. A lot of sissies, like when it comes to femdom, a lot of dominatrixes, um, like when they dress the sissy up like a woman and
Yep.
absolutely feminize them, make them act feminine. They're like, oh, you have your period this week, and they boom. Okay, so let's talk chastity. Chastity says is one of your main things now. Everybody who I ask these two questions. First of all, do you have anybody in chastity right now?
Almost everybody I talk to, like, or at least in terms of my, personal BDSM femdom life, I tell everybody, even on my listing on Night Flirt, like, you are in constant figurative chastity with me from the moment you pick up the phone.
So
And
they have chastity devices, or it's
some
more
of them
like
do. Some of them do, yes. Some of them are into chastity enough that they have the devices. Others, especially the ones who weren't expecting that from the beginning, the ones who didn't read my listing before they picked up the phone and then decided while they were talking to me that they liked me enough to call me back, I won't let those ones get chastity devices, because it's so much more tempting for them to touch themselves, when they don't have a device on and they don't have that barrier. So they have to mentally say to themselves, don't do it. You might have the opportunity to do it because of the fact that you're not wearing anything, but don't do it. And it's a lot harder, and it's a lot more satisfying when they can actually prove to me that they haven't been doing it. And it gives me a power trip, and it just reminds me that some people really do have self-control and some don't.
okay,
So
so they're not locked up,
mhm.
right? How can they prove it to you that they didn't touch themselves?
So I've had one, and I guess I can only say one because this is the only one that would do that. But I've had one that actually had himself hooked up to like a live feed in his house, and I had the recordings of the live feed. So if I really wanted to, I could just sit down and go through and be like, all right, what have you been doing? And he consented to it. So as long as he consented to it, I was like, cool, let's do it. But
Like in every room?
yep, yep.
It's like some
He was
1984
dedicated.
stuff.
He already had all this set up too before he was even talking to me. And he told me, which I'm sure is a flat out lie, but I went with it. He told me that, he hadn't had the opportunity to do that with anybody yet. But he had all these set up so nicely that I was just like, you have done this before. But But yeah, that's the one way that I've had it proven to me. The other way that I know, though, is that your demeanor and the way that you talk changes when you haven't come for a while. So,
Oh yeah.
especially with me, like the people, that are really attracted to me will talk to me, and it is totally different than the way that they talk to me after they've had an orgasm. So I'm like, if you're talking to me a certain way, I know if you've come or not.
Definitely. I mean, like whenever I'm locked in chastity, and it's not usually for a long time.
Mhm.
The most I've ever been in is 2 weeks.
Okay.
And like first of all, while I'm locked, my demeanor starts to change. First, I listen.
Mhm. Oh,
Not only do I listen to what people say, or what my dom says, but like I actually like care and I
yep.
listen and I clean up after myself and I do my laundry and her laundry and paint her nails. And then it's funny because in everyday life I'm very dominant and I'm also masculine. I'm not one of these people who, if you put me in a dress, I don't act like feminine. I don't. I just act submissive. And
Right.
it's funny, as soon as I come, I'm like, so you want to go see a movie? What's on TV?
Yeah.
What's the longest you've had someone locked up in chastity for?
6 months.
6 months.
Yep.
Ouch. Okay, this is because you are primarily an online dominatrix. Um, chastity online. Like, what are certain ways? Do they hold the key, or do they mail you the key, or what are some ways that that they don't unlock themselves?
Well, it just depends. If I trust them enough, I'll let them keep the key, but they have to put it in a certain place and then take pictures of it every day. Or, we'll get on cam and they'll show me it's still in here. It varies per person. I had one person who cheated and came out and then put himself back in, because I'll let them out to clean it and things like that. But if you cheat and you let yourself out, like I had somebody throw their key off of a bridge, and yeah, so that's how I knew that he wasn't coming out. He had to actually like physically like break that thing off of him when we were done. But yeah, it varies per person. The biggest one though is like I'll make them get on cam at a certain time every day and be like, okay, show it to me. And I'm very detail oriented, so I can tell if you've moved something. Like if you've picked something up and then tried to put it back, I can tell if it's moved. If I see the key and it is touched in any way, automatically my brain is like, okay, well, now we're going to find out how that moved, and I can usually find out if they've touched it. They very rarely lie to me, especially when they know how I am. So
It's funny. I talk to a lot of women who are in chastity, or into chastity, not in chastity. But and you want to hear some creative ways
yes.
for online? One of them is to take a metal coffee can, empty it out, fill it with water, put both keys in it because usually it comes with two keys, and then put it in the freezer. So you have to, if like you first of all, there's the psychological aspect that if you said, okay, you can take it out of the freezer, but you have to wait till it melts. Waiting for it to melt takes forever. So that takes like a couple of days or a day or two, at least for 24 hours. But it's crazy if you like take an ice pick and chip at it. That's like a lot of work.
Yeah, that's desperation.
Another one, which is really funny that I've never heard this. This was a new one to me, and this is probably gonna be a new one to you. Is okay. You're gonna be in chastity, so masturbate like 10 as much as you can in one day and come inside a condom, right? And the same condom. Fill up the condom as much as you can. Put the key in it, tie it, and then put the condom in a paper towel roll. Okay? And then put the paper towel roll in the freezer. And then
Wow.
after it's detailed, right? And then after the freezer, on camera or through Skype or something, they have to the cum and pee filled frozen condom. They have to fuck themselves with it.
That is definitely new to me. Oh my god, I love that.
Yeah. And then put it back in the freezer.
Gosh, that's creative.
Yeah, isn't it?
I
Okay,
like that.
so we did foot domination. All right, let's talk about coerced by. That's one thing, especially with chastity, and especially with like the forced feminization and with sissies or forced cross dressing or anything like that. That seems to be, especially in the porn aspect of it. But it's also kind of, if you say coerced, it used to be called forced by. Now I see that a lot of it's coerced. It's a different language.
There's a reason for that, though. It's because we're not allowed to use the word forced a lot on many platforms anymore.
Oh yeah, okay. So how does that work? Like, is it something that's talked out beforehand, or is it something that you just go to, or what?
It usually is talked out beforehand. That's actually a big thing that I'm very much into safe, sane, consensual. So you have to give me consent, before I will go that far with somebody. Now that Sesta Fosta is up, it's very difficult to be able to do that with a lot of people. So now my coerced by content is mostly in clips and MP3s, but back in, what was it, very beginning of 2016, I had somebody that would call me once a week, and he had found somebody that was totally into it, and we'd have a session on the phone where this guy was sucking off this other guy, and but that's the thing, is like, with the chastity, he was sucking off this guy, but he couldn't orgasm. So it was more along the lines of, it was almost cuckolding in a way, except in the sense of, I was controlling both of them, but the other man was doming the one. Yeah. Yes. So yeah, yeah. So it was just, I kind of missed that. I'm not gonna lie, that was a lot of fun, but it's hard to do that with people now.
I noticed in the coerced by situations, there's almost two sides of the spectrum. There's the belittling side, like calling them, I'm not going to use the word, but using the F word and stuff like that, and it's kind of mean. And then there's the other side of it where it's like, oh, you love that. Oh, it's like you're kind of bringing out a side to you. So, what end of that spectrum would you fall in when it comes to?
I'm kind of in the middle. It depends on who it is and what they're into. I don't use that F word. They'll ask me to. That's not really language that I'll get behind. Like, I commend the people who will get behind it, but it just, the humiliation aspect depends on who it is. Some people like to be called names and told that they're a sissy little bitch for being on their knees for another man, and there's some people that really do like to be like encouraged and congratulated for coming out of their comfort zone. Yeah. And I'm very much a humiliatrix, but I'm also a sensual dom to the ones who want it, need it, and deserve it. So it really does that's another answer of, it just depends on the person. I feel like I'm very good at both, so I can do either one.
Okay. So you're also into financial domination?
Yes.
Okay. Now, that's a two-part question.
Yes.
A lot of times gifts play a role in financial domination. What is, A, your favorite gift that someone gave you, and B, what is the most expensive gift someone gave you? They could be the same gift.
That's actually, yeah, they are the same gift. So I just went to Paris for a show. Within Temptation's one of my favorite bands, and I was waiting to see them for 15 years. And I threw a fit one day on the phone with one of my submissives, because I saw that they were going on a European tour, but they weren't coming over here. And he went, pick a show, I'll fly you out there. And I was like, you're fucking with me. And he was just like, no, really, pick a show and I'll fly you out there. And I'm thinking, okay. So I picked a show, and I had a plane ticket and hotel reservations and VIP to that show within 24 hours. And that was about top, I think total for all of that was almost $4,000. Wow. So yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Did you meet anybody in Paris that you could dom?
Oh, I met so many people out there that I was like, I bet you're a submissive. I bet you're a little bitch. and I thought about it, and I was like, I could bring it up, and I could either get a hit or miss here, but it was at the show, so I didn't really want to put myself in the position at the show, especially since I had VIP to meet that band and I didn't need somebody coming out with that in front of them. But and like, again, I'm open about that kind of thing, but when it comes to like musicians and all that, I'm a singer and I'm trying to get into that industry. So that's something that, I wouldn't want to come up in front of other musicians yet. But I did meet plenty of people that their vibe was just that kind of vibe that I was like, if I could just get you on the phone, like, I swear.
What kind of music do you sing?
So I'm trained in symphonic metal, but in January I'm starting classical training.
Um, okay. So, okay, let's talk about camming. So, first of all, do you cam? I've only seen some of your stuff, but do you cam? Do you always cam alone, or do you cam with other people sometimes?
I would like to start camming with other people. I haven't cammed with others yet. I mean, when I was still in the more vanilla side of things, my best friend and I cammed with each other for a week, and that was great. But I'm not like, with camming, I mix the two. I have the vanilla and femdom touch in camming because it's a lot harder, especially on sites like My Free Cams, to be successful just as a femdom. There are definitely people out there that are looking for it, but if you're doing it to make good money, you want a little bit of both. And maybe that's just me. Maybe that was just the way that
You mean
that
both
I was
vanilla
successful.
and femdom?
Pardon?
You mean when you say both, you mean both vanilla and femdom?
Yes.
Ah,
But the way that I do it is I mix them together. So I'm never just vanilla or just femdom. I mix them together on cam, but I would like to be able to cam with other people to be able to explore femdom more. Because if I had a submissive on cam with me, whether it be another cam girl or somebody I meet that I can bring on cam with me, but My Free Cams is females only, so it would be a female submissive or something like that, then I feel like that would, it would help me a lot, not just in the sense of traffic, but to practice with other people. And I think it would just be a good representation and a good way for me to be able to put out there, like, yeah, I'm a little bit of both, but this is what I prefer. So I
especially
would love to cam with other people.
especially with like two doms. Some of the best femdom porn or that I've seen is multiple doms with one male sub. You
Oh, that
know,
would be great. That would be
yeah,
great.
that's great. So, okay, with doing phone sex and cam dom and camming, phone sex and camming, um, there's always safety precautions they have to take because people will try to find out who you are and stuff like that. And there's so what safety precautions, like, I'm not saying what you take, but like, okay, let's say someone wants to get in, a woman wants to get into phone sex and a woman wants to get into camming. What precautions would you advise them they take?
So the biggest thing that I'm going to say is that decide whether or not you want to show your face in phone sex, because when I first started, I didn't. And, when I started showing my face is when I started getting more safety threats. So decide whether or not you want to show your face. And if you do want to show your face, just pay attention to VPNs, get a VPN, whether you are phone sex or camming, get a VPN because that very easily knocks somebody off of your location trail. And it, because that's the biggest thing. That's actually kind of the biggest fear when it comes to either one is somebody's going to find me. So VPNs, they don't fix the problem entirely, but they help a lot. Make sure that you are not posting pictures that you posted on your vanilla social media to your alter social media. So if say you took a picture, like I had to be careful with the concert photos I took in Paris. Say you took a picture of this concert and then you put it on your Facebook with your your real name on it, but then all of a sudden you go over to your Twitter that has your stage name and you post the same picture. People can take that picture and reverse image search it and find your personal information.
Yeah.
So be careful about what you're posting. Don't cross post on those things because there is a good chance that somebody is out there doing that. And there's a lot of doxing going on right now with a lot of people.
Sure.
So
Especially
just
political.
Yes, yes. There's a lot of doxing going on right now. The best I can say when it comes to protecting yourself is don't go off talking about things in your vanilla life that can be traced on the internet.
I,
Yeah.
I have an upcoming article, a part of a series called "Our Professional Dominatrix Friends," and one of the things, the pieces of advice was make sure you don't have anything personal in the background.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's another big one.
yeah, if in any of your pictures or your cam, make sure you don't have anything personal, like pictures of family or pictures, because
Yep.
like, yeah, you don't want to
Yep. I live with technically three people. One of them technically lives in Texas, but this is her house. I live with my best friend and her parents right now. And that was one of the big things when I told them I wanted to get back into camming. They were like, everything on your walls in your bedroom needs to come down. And I was like, that's fair. I was gonna do that anyway. But yeah, even they knew, like before I even had to start talking about safety things I was doing, even they were like, nothing in the background that can, tell anybody where you are or, who you are, anything. I'm like, fair, like fair.
Okay, so you said you had some threats. I mean, like I said, it could be a scary thing. Putting yourself out there. There are some creepy men out there, obviously. I like to think of the kink community as a very loving and whimsical place, but of course it has a dark side. And I don't mean to bring up things, but this is interesting. I actually, what were some what were some of these times where you felt uncomfortable or unsafe?
So when I very first started on Night Flirt, there was a guy that he got really attached to me, and he kept asking me like, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, "I don't share my location. Like the most you get from me is I'm in Mountain Time, and the only reason you get that is because we got to coordinate schedules. So that's the only reason you get that. I don't share my location." And and he would ask that constantly, and I would tell him over and over again, "I don't share that information." Well, there's one submissive that does know where I am, and that's for a very specific reason. And he managed to hack my email, my professional email, and he traced my email address to my IP address, which for some reason my VPN did not kick. And once he traced that, he went into my sent emails to make sure that, what he picked up was correct. I don't know like what email I sent that had my address in it, but apparently there was one in there. And he didn't show up, thankfully, but it was still the fact of like I was getting letters in the mail at one point from this guy. And yeah, and I had a moment, like, even, again, I live with my best friend and her parents. Like, I had a moment where I was thinking to myself, the last thing I need is to get thrown out of here because somebody that, I talk to, like, fetish related, shows up here. And I told him, I told him the next time I talked to him, like after the third letter that I got, he actually called me. And I told him, I was like, if you get me thrown out, we're gonna have an issue. Like, and he did go, oh, I just want to see. I don't care what you want to do. That's weird. And there was another incident that I had when I very first started camming, which was like 6 years ago. And this was before I even knew what a VPN was. But this guy got, like, he was just very aggressive anyway. Like, we got along, but he was very aggressive. He thought he knew everything. He has done everything. You say, oh, I know somebody who does this. He's like, oh, I've done that. I'm like, sure you have. But he got to the point where like I had to block him. And the next thing I know, he's, in everything. Like, he's on new accounts in my room. He's emailing me. I don't know how he got my email address, but he's emailing me. He's sending messages to other members, with my personal information. And, he tried to dox me on Twitter, which, I managed to get around that, but it was still, yeah, it was just still one of those things where I'm going, what in the world? And then all of a sudden I get an email one day and he basically tells me that unless I unblocked him from my room, then he was going to hack into my IP address and get my address. And I went, my mother will kill you, but okay. Like, and And I was like, and I'm not even being dramatic. Like, if you want to show up here, like you have to deal with my mother, because I lived with my mother at the time. And I'm like, you're going to have to deal with my mother. And my mother's a scary person. So, good luck with that. But, I got a couple people that were trying to actually find me. And, I couldn't tell you what they wanted to do if they actually found me, because it never got that far. But people really need to be careful, because there are people out there that, most of the time it's just a scare tactic, but there are people out there that will find out where you are if they have enough information, and they have, what they consider a good reason. It might be a stupid reason, but they'll consider it a good reason. And I tell people all the time, especially the newbies, like, please be careful. Be careful and make sure that, you've covered internet safety and all of that before you even get into this, because I've had a couple people that have found my address, and it's terrifying.
That blows my mind. I mean, I understand there are people out there who do that and who like that and who are very obsessive.
Yeah.
I understand that exists. But me, I only want to be around people who want to be around me.
Yes.
Like, I mean, I've been dumped before, and I've dumped, girlfriends and stuff like that. But I never begged or pleaded or like stalked them or anything like that. I was just like, I only want to be around people who want to be around me. And then when it comes to professionals, because a lot of my friends are either professional doms or professional phone sex workers, because I'm really in the kink community, obviously. So again, I understand there's a respect aspect and a privacy aspect that, especially in the professional community, like, privacy and respect is important. So please, men out there, as much as you love these women, give them some respect and respect their privacy. All right. So,
especially if you're going to be rude. Like, if you're going to be rude and then you get yourself blocked, like, that's your own fault. Don't be threatening girls because they blocked you, or like prying into their personal information because they blocked you. Clearly you did something. And even if you didn't do something and she just happened to have blocked you because she didn't like you, move on. Like, there are so many other people out there for you.
Oh my God, yeah, there's a dom for every son.
Yes.
So, okay, you say one of your things that you're into, which I really want you to kind of define this, because this is kind of interesting. You're into artistic eroticism. What is that all about?
So when it comes to things like nudity, which camming's big on nudity, and, even clips are big on nudity. The way that I define artistic eroticism when it comes to that is more performance than explicit nudity. So, say I wanted to do a clip where, let's see, let me grab one off the top of my head. It's some kind of humiliation clip. I want to do some kind of humiliation clip, but, I'm not into getting explicitly nude. Then there are still ways to be nude and have that be seductive and be, appealing without full force, like facing a camera, all my clothes off, close-ups on genitals and things like that. And, that's only one form of it. So say, like, I'm half turned away from the camera, I'm doing this, but, but I'm clearly still naked, or even just being turned slightly from the camera so you can't see me, waist down. But then there's also things like, and I haven't gotten to do this yet, and I think I'm gonna try to do this tonight. I'm gonna cam tonight and see if I can get to a show for this. But there are also things like certain dances, that people do, burlesque in a way, that's burlesque. Yeah, I love burlesque, like, and
burlesque dancers.
Yeah, and just certain dances or things like things that don't focus solely on the sexual aspect of eroticism. So,
you know what? I just had this idea that, those old, like, erotic pictures that are like kind of like they're not back then. They don't use a filter, but back then that's the way cameras are, where they're like kind of brown, black and white and brown, and they like they're nude, but they're very kind of like respectful and like, I'm surprised that people don't have like a cam like theme that way. Like, people cam like that. Do they? I don't know.
I'm about to promote my favorite girl right now. She's gonna love me for this, but I'm about to promote my favorite girl right now. Whoever has a My Free Cams account, go look for Skitty, Skitty. She was actually my inspiration for artistic eroticism, and she's gorgeous, number one, and number two, her shows are freaking fantastic. You know, they don't focus on masturbation or, you know, anything overtly sexual, but she is sexy and sensual without having to do all of that, you know. And it's very modest. She's very modest in her nudity, and she's very, like, her lighting is fantastic. You know, that's probably what makes her right there, other than the fact that she's gorgeous. Her light shows, just in general, you know, they focus a lot on, you know, what you just said, you know, in terms of almost like a more brown type, and, you know, and then insert all kinds of other colors. You know, she's fantastic. She's probably the definition of artistic eroticism, and I did get a lot of my inspiration from her. She's not a dom, but she is very much, you know, she's a performer, and what blew me away, you know, she's so mature. She's 22 years old, but she's like one of the most mature people I've ever seen in my life, and she's great. You know, so people know, really, I'm about to do like massive promotion for her here. Go check her out. She's awesome.
Yeah, hook me up. I'll interview her, and we'll promote you as I interview her.
She's great. She's, you know, again, she's not a dom, but she's great. She is one of the very few. She's one of the very few cam models who found out that I am a dom and a cam model and did not ban me from her room. Like, we're pretty good friends now. I'm trying to meet up with her in January at AVN because I adore her.
Yeah, let me interview her. I interview everybody. I just like interviewing kinky people, all kinds.
Yeah, she's great. See if she'll let you. I'll even tell her about this and be like, hey, because, you know, again, she's the very definition of artistic eroticism. Like, when it comes to anything that I have interest in that has to do with that, it is all because of her. Like,
cool. Okay, so a lot of people, you know, I mean, technically, I don't want to put labels on, but you are a sex worker. You work, you know, your job is sex work. So a lot of people who are in the sex industry, you know, they have, like, it's work for them. It's just work for them. But personally, in the bedroom, it's something different. Like, I've met many very kinky people who are professionals who just like want vanilla sex in the bedroom with their partner. You know what I mean? So what is that dynamic like with you?
Well, people always get surprised with me because in my personal life, I consider myself a lesbian. So if I'm going to have sex, it's going to be with a female, and it's really just going to be based on our dynamic together. So if it's, you know, a vanilla aspect, cool. You know, that's what works for us. If it goes into a more kinky element with us, awesome. You know, I would love to do that. I've always been a dominant person, so no matter what situation I end up in, whether it be kinky or vanilla, I'm still going to be dominant. And I don't know, this, to me, I don't consider this just a job for me. Like, yes, it is my full-time job. You know, it's how I make my money. But I have so many good connections with my submissives that it would be insulting for me to sit here and be like, this is all this is money for me. Like, no, that would be insulting at this point. So when it comes to like my vanilla life, you know, everything with me just depends on the person. You know, I'm very much the one that's like, if somebody pops up that I can do both with, great. You know, I would prefer it that way. But if not, oh well.
Are you with someone right now?
Not right now, no. I don't have much of a life at the moment. Like, all I do right now is I do this, and then I travel a lot. So I'm never really in one place very much. And like, I sing, you know, I take my lessons, you know, I have music, I have voice and piano lessons. And so the extent of my social life right now are my roommates and my music teacher, and then people who I talk to, like, on the phone and, you know, on the internet. But that's not really a problem for me right now, because I have a lot of things that I really want to do with my life. So I'm focused on pulling in enough money to be able to go do those things. And then maybe later on, when I'm comfortable and when I'm settled into a certain way of life, I'll start getting out there more and being like, you know, let's see what I can do about a relationship. You know, I used to be really upset that, you know, I was constantly alone romantically. I used to be really upset about that. But, you know, when I think about it, I wouldn't be able to be in a relationship right now anyway. I don't have the time. Like,
You said you have a lot of things that you want to do in your life. What are some of those things?
oh, well, one of the biggest things that I want to do, like I want a music career. You know, I really want to be able to get into singing professionally. One of the reasons why I, you know, try to make as much money as I possibly can is because when I get my own place, I want to add on a recording studio. So I set some pretty high goals for myself in that. But you know, all of my traveling, you know, I have specific places that I want to go, and a lot of it though bases on who's touring when. Like I follow bands everywhere. Like this year was the first year that I had a passport, and I have been out of the country 3 times, and I can guarantee you next year is going to be at least 5. So, you know, but everybody's coming out with their albums next year, and all of the music that I listen to, well, about 90% of the music I listen to is all European. So I'm like, I'm going to go follow you guys over in Europe. But
I'm a big fan of European indie rock.
yeah, I really like European symphonic metal, and that, like, the Netherlands, there's something in the water over there, because the bands that come out of that country, I'm like, holy Jesus. But
The black metal stuff.
no, it's classical music mixed in with metal.
Oh, oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But you know, that's, yeah, those are kind of the two big things right now. Like I want to get to the point where, you know, I can have my own place. You know, these people are being very generous, you know, to me. These people I'm living with, you know, they're being very generous. They're letting me stay here and like get my credit together and, you know, make enough money to be able to go out and not have to come back. Yeah. And but there's so many things. Like I'm a writer, you know, I want to get a book published, and you know, I want to be able to say that, you know, I sang with Tarja Turunen, who's one of my favorite, you know, singers. And I just, there's so much, and I like put so much energy into this, not just for the money, but that is a big thing right now because of all the other things that I want to do. And unfortunately, life costs money. But
So okay, since you traveled so much, and you know, your kinky friends is all about the beauty of sexual expression. Everywhere you travel, what would you say is the city or country that embraces kink and sexual expression in the best or the most beautiful way to you?
Amsterdam.
Yeah. Oh, I can't. I want to go.
Amsterdam is gorgeous. That was not even on my list of places I wanted to go. And then Epica did their 1,000th show in Tilburg, which is south of Amsterdam. So I went, all right, you know what? I'll go out there. I'll spend a few days in Tilburg to see them, and then I'm going to go up to Amsterdam because everybody tells me I should go. Oh, am I glad I did. That's still to this day like the best place I've been to so far. And they're very open and accepting, and very they're very sexual. I didn't realize like how sexual. I mean, I know the red light district's there, but I was expecting to show up and the red light district be a lot more trashy than it actually is.
Yeah. Okay. So are there any kinks or fetishes or something that you want to try but you haven't, or that you're interested in?
I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are, honestly. I don't think I can think of any off the top of my head. I know that I want to try role playing more often, but I don't really trust people because, especially on the phone, like, you know, I can role play in writing, like I actually do that, but when it comes down to it, and I consider just role play on its own a kink, and
Oh, definitely.
yeah, but when it comes to like being on the phone, you know, I need more practice, but I haven't found anybody with enough patience to be able to.
You'd be surprised. Yeah, there, like for example, me, I can get right into character like that because I mean I also have like a hunger for kink in my life. But
Right.
I know some people who like the nurse patient thing, or you know the female doctor patient thing, or the psychiatrist, the sexy psychiatrist, or
Right.
the teacher, the teacher student, you know, the boss the boss reception.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm also one of those though that I'm very much like, I don't roll my eyes at stereotypes, but I also can't take them seriously anymore. Like it just because I laugh. Like I
Yeah,
laugh too hard. Like I love the fact that there are people that are into that kind of thing because it's very popular and there's a reason it's very popular. So I'm very much that person that's like, teach me how to do that so I'm not laughing. But
but
like when
you could use
when it
that to
comes
your
to certain
advantage.
things, though, like I just can't do it. But there are things that are less stereotyped that I wish I could do more. Like,
You could use that to your advantage, especially as a, in the humiliatrix, dominatrix role. I mean, like when it comes to sissies, or when it comes to even like the doctor, or whatever it is, whether it's nun role play or whatever, some of the, I mean, the laughing can add to the humiliation, even
oh
though inside you're laughing that this is ridiculous.
yeah,
But
yeah.
you could kind of use that and kind of interchange that, and to make it that you're laughing at them. You know what I
I've
mean?
got I've got to find somebody with enough patience because when I was doing it on the phone, there were just people that, if it wasn't going their way immediately, I was getting hung up on. So I eventually just stopped because I'm like, it's not that hard to just say, hey, this isn't working out. Thank you anyway. I just got frustrated with getting hung up on at one point.
Okay, so let's talk about epilepsy. We have a fantastic writer, a contributor to Your Kinky Friends. Her name is Sassy Witch 666, and she has, I forgot the name of her, but she is disabled, and she gets basically tumors grow on her nerves, and it's
Ooh.
very painful for her. But she's a very kinky woman. She's a, beautiful, wonderful woman, and who actually wrote some articles about, that you could be disabled and still be kinky. And so, how has your epilepsy affected not only your sex life, but you know, your kinkiness? And
So my epilepsy is triggered by certain sounds, and yeah, which is weird. And like we still don't have an official diagnosis for what it is. They can't figure out what it is, but it's triggered by certain sounds. So like I can't listen to certain music, and there are certain like frequencies that I can't hear, like car engines, not even car engines, bus engines. Bus engines really get to me. So when it comes to kink, like I just have to really be careful about what kind of kink I'm doing that involves sound. So like impact play, I can do certain impact play, like the general slapping, just the no big deal. But sometimes there are ways that like somebody will hit somebody and it'll make like a very loud noise. Yeah, and the frequency depending on the room you're in is different, and sometimes that'll get to me. So
Is that like echo throughout the room?
yeah, so if it's too much of an echo and it's repetitive, it will get into my brain, and my brain will be like seizure mode. I've only ever had one grand mal seizure. I have what's called partial seizures. So it's brain seizures. So when I have a seizure, my whole face blanks out. I feel like I retreat into a place in the back of my head and I'm watching everything through a window, and it's the worst freaking feeling. I hate it, but there's just certain things, like especially with tones of voice. Like if somebody has a very monotone tone of voice, I can't. Like, and that makes it hard on the phone too, because sometimes people will call me, and if they're monotone, I don't want to tell them like, oh my gosh, I can't talk to you because of your voice. Like that makes me feel bad because it's not like they can help it. But like sometimes, I'll literally just have to tell them, look, unless you can kind of pitch your voice to me, then this is what's happening and this is what happens to me. And most of the time, they completely understand it and they're like, please don't die on the phone with me. So
Now, do you think I was watching? I was I was watching this show called on a Netflix called Sick Note, and there's a woman in there. There's a character who um, basically gets turned on by people with disabilities who either have cancer or they have disfigurements or or who are in sorrow. Do you ever use your epilepsy to your advantage in that aspect?
oh sure, yeah, I've had a couple people that found, at first I thought that they were just finding it interesting because they were finding it interesting, and then I found out later that it's actually a turn on to them. And what I found about the mental aspect of it, at least with them, is that, it just shows them that I'm human, and that, I'm not some kind of god that, doesn't have anything happen to them. But, I have totally, taken that and run with it. And I've had like discussions with people on the phone for hours at a time going, oh, this was my grand mal seizure, and this is what happened when I, realized that I was actually an epileptic, and I've had it since I was 5, and this is how I discovered that I needed to be on medication. And it just goes on and on and on. And I've made good money doing that. So
Okay, it's confession time. All right. Confession time. 6th grade. I'm in 6th grade. All right. Had one little girlfriend. The only thing we ever did is like kiss each other on the cheek, and that was in 5th grade. And I was always like this romantic. Like, so I was in 1st grade in kindergarten, and I fell in love with this girl named Montana, and I couldn't even get the nerve to ask her out, even though we did like laugh and we were friends. So 6th grade comes along, first day, 6th grade. What age is that? Like 11?
Something like that, yeah.
This girl Tanya, very outgoing, very nice. She and okay, keep in mind, it was at a time where I absolutely loved movies, and I would make my own movies in my head. I would write my own like cable guides and with my own movies and stuff like that. And she was so nice to me, and we became friends and everything like that. She had an epileptic seizure in the middle of class. Actually, no, not in the middle of the class, in the middle of an assembly. So basically in front of the whole school, on the floor, having a seizure, right? And then, she told me she had epilepsy and stuff like that. And I continued to be friends with her, and she like really, really, really liked me, and I was still kind of too young and scared to kind of do things with women, you know what I mean? Like to be a part of a relationship and, have a girlfriend and stuff like that.
Right.
But I started writing this made me write a screenplay. Now keep in mind, 6th grade, I recall, and her name was Tanya, and I wrote a screenplay about like my first girlfriend who's epileptic, you know what I mean? And there was a whole thing about that. I'm not saying it's a fetish, I'm not saying it's a kink, but there was this whole kind of mental and emotional aspect to it of being with someone sick, or being with someone who has, a condition or disease and stuff like that. And, and I'm not going to front with, my story with Lynn, the
Right.
fact that he was sick, and I'm in and out of the hospital with her, people treat you differently. You know what I mean? And like me as a caretaker, as someone who loved her and who stood by her, people commend that. And, there's this whole thing to that. And I mean, I didn't want Lynn to be sick. I didn't want Lynn to die. I didn't want Lynn to, have kidney problems and, and be in and out of the hospital. That didn't make me feel good. I wanted her to be healthy, but it's what I'm saying is it's like, there's a weird emotional, mental aspect to being around people who have conditions or illnesses. Okay, that's enough with that. So BDSM on a budget. Now, we have a little segment here called BDSM. We're almost done. We have a segment here called BDSM on a budget. I urge everybody to support high-end BDSM products, whether it's equipment, corsets, toys, or whatever. But not everybody has the luxury to, to do that. So, do you have any BDSM life hacks for people who want to be kinky but don't have the money?
Gosh, I am like the walking freaking example of people who want to be kinky but don't have the money. Okay, so if you're doing real time, I would honestly just say things like, food. Food's a fetish. There's food's a fetish. If you don't have any money, I hope you're at least feeding yourself. So use food. If that is okay, English. So if you can find something kinky in general, especially with BDSM, I can guarantee you that you can find some kind of food and make it kinky and actually get yourself into it. I did that. So like pillows, pillows.
Okay, let's get back to food. So what you mean, like sticking food inside of you, rubbing it on you, or like being like, I'm gonna make you dinner?
All of it, all of it, all of that. Pillows, like, a lot of people like impact play. Start beating somebody with a pillow. That's probably the safest way to do it, to be honest. Start, beating somebody with a pillow.
Pillow fight.
Right, exactly. Looking around my room trying to figure out what I have in here that I could probably use on people. If you collect like DVDs, that's another good way for impact. Just don't be hitting people in the face,
It's funny. Maria Beatty is a filmmaker, and I wrote a review for her DVD called The Black Glove and Elegant Spanking. And in the review, I wrote, and even with the DVD, you should buy this DVD because you can take the box and you can spank the other person with it.
There you go. See, see. And I guess another big thing, like, okay, you don't always need to have an item to be kinky.
Yeah.
So, at that point, like, start using your brain. Start thinking of ways that you can be kinky without having to use an item. That's big with me. Being online, I have to be able to think of ways to do that without using a physical item. So if you have the mindset, do it.
Miss Melissa wrote a whole article for BDSM on a budget. Talk dirty. Just
yes.
Talking dirty.
Talk dirty. And in terms of clothes, I don't own anything, remotely sexy on like a I don't own anything that's supposed to be considered sexy, but I can make everything I own look sexy. So, you can do that too. If you like fetish clothing, take clothes you already have and make something else, or take them and think, how can I wear these differently? And it's a good way to try it, at least. Get out. Get out. Sorry, my dog came in here. I thought my door was shut. Pardon?
What's your dog's name?
Oh, Buttercup. I have 3. Buttercup, Bella, and Ronnie.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Rapid fire questions, and they don't always end up rapid fire. Okay. Recommend a movie.
Recommend a movie. Sister Act.
Okay. Recommend a song.
A song?
Yeah.
Paradise by Within Temptation and Tarja.
Okay. Recommend a book.
A book. What did I just read? Stalking Jack the Ripper. I can't remember who wrote it, but it's a really good book.
Ooh, I gotta check that out. I'm fascinated with that. Okay, recommend a television show.
I'm watching a lot of those right now. So, American Horror Story. I just got into that, and it's been out for ages. So.
Okay. All right. Now we get to one of the last parts of the interview. Thank you for your patience. This is the word association game. So I'm going to say a word or a phrase. You say the first thing that pops into your head. Okay? So if I say chastity, you may say lock. But like I said, you say the first thing that pops into your head. So let's say you have leftovers and you haven't eaten yet. And, there's pizza in the refrigerator. And it's good pizza. And I say chastity, and you say pizza. Perfectly fine answer. Okay? That's the 2 rules. Literally say the first thing that comes into your head. All right? Okay. Don't overthink it. That's the first rule. The second rule is we don't kink shame. So if I say something, please don't go like ew, or please don't make fun of it. Just say not my thing.
Okay.
Now there's another part of this. There's the jar. Tangle Blue, who I love, who I absolutely adore. She is essential to yourkinkyfriends.com, and I just love her to death. We have a very weird sense of humor, a very absurd sense of humor. And she gave me this. She gave me this jar, and it's filled with little cards of stuff. Some of it's kinky, some of it's nonsense, some of it has nothing to do with kink at all. So most of the stuff that I'm going to say is off the top of my head, okay? And it's probably going to be kink related. And then every once in a while, I'm going to go to the jar. And then there's one more aspect. One Rule Supersedes has this thing where he makes kinky stickers, and it's called the me movement, where it's like there's like beg me, hit me, punish me, own me, stuff like that. So we'll do one of those too. So shout out to One Rule Supersedes. You ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right. Pegging.
Pegging. Dildo.
Fire play.
Ow.
Suffocation.
Fun.
Wax play.
Candle.
Sissies.
Makeup.
The violet wand.
That's another ow from me.
Okay, the Hitachi magic wand.
Love.
Yeah, we get a lot of support for that.
Love.
All right. Phone sex.
Fun.
The daddy baby girl dynamic. All right. Pet play.
Interesting.
Chastity.
Lock, because you already said it.
That's fine. That's fine. Fire play.
Ow.
Latex.
Slick.
Straight jacket.
Crazy.
Okay, this is the One Rule Supersede sticker. Pay me.
Yes.
All right. Mummification.
So for some reason I thought toilet paper, so let's go with that.
That's fine. Yeah, that works.
Water. I don't know why I thought water, but water.
All right, let's go into the jar.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm picking, so you know.
Okay.
Dick pic.
Dick pic. No, thank you.
Silk.
Pretty.
Okay. Masturbation.
Sure.
Right. Cuffs.
Cuffs. Arrest.
Ooh. Saddle.
Saddle. Sex toy. There's a sex toy called the saddle, and that's immediately what I thought of.
Okay. Milk.
Drink.
Okay. Relationship.
Stressful.
Okay. Consensual, non-consensual.
My brain just blanked on that one. Consensual, non-consensual.
Which is like rape play.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's several words for that one. It could be interesting.
What about kidnap play?
Kidnap play. You know what? I've tried it. It's fun. So fun.
Sadism.
Pain.
Masochism.
Interesting. That's another one that comes up as interesting.
Okay. Religious play.
Not for me.
Medical play.
Definitely not for me.
Fisting.
Popular.
Branding.
God, domination.
Okay. All right. Piss play or water sports.
Cold.
Cold. Usually I think it'd be.
Yeah, usually it's warm, but for some reason my brain went cold.
Yeah. I had a friend at Test Fest who 12 people pissed on him, but one of them just brought a cup of cold piss.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
All right. And finally, we came to the end. No pun intended. Well, a little bit. Scat.
No, thank you.
Okay. No worries. Oh, Miss Cameron, you have been an absolute pleasure to talk to. Please stay on after we're done because I'd like to talk to you a little bit. Please use this time to, even though on the site you will be, all your links and everything will be there, but please take this time right now to promote everything, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Instagram, whether it's your website, whether it's what Night Flirt, whatever, Snapchat, you ever go.
Okay. Well, yes, definitely Twitter. Follow me at Yes Miss Cabrel, please, because I'm trying to hit 1,000 followers by January. So that would definitely help. My website, yesmisscabrel.com, just opened up this week, and I have yet to have anybody on it, but I am offering a discount for the for the whole rest of the year, actually. So usually it's $29.95 a month for all of my content, blog posts, pictures, all of it. It's usually that. For your first month this year, it'll be $22.49. Kind of considered a Christmas special. And so anybody who follows, you know, on my site is going to get a little bit of a prize. So we'll do that. You can come get me on Night Flirt if you want to. You know, I'm Miss Cameron Cabrel on Night Flirt. I'm trying to focus a lot on my free cams right now because I just started back up with them. If you are somebody that's into cam girls, I am Cameron Cabrel on Night Flirt, and I have so many more like prizes and things to offer on cam than I do on Night Flirt right now. So if you like want something, come find me on cam. You know, I'm very much the one that, you know, on Night Flirt, if you're a submissive, you get what I give you and you like it. On cam, I'm a little more lenient about it, and I'm like, let's talk about what you might want and let's see what we can do for you. So biggest thing right now though, my website, yesmisscabrel.com, and Twitter at yesmisscabrel. Please, please, please. Thank you.
Great, wonderful. Once again, this is Nicholas Tanek, yourkinkyfriends.com. We have a special Discord group. You can get there through yourkinkyfriends.com. It's great. We have a bunch of different channels on there. We got a really cool bunch of people with all kinds of kinks. I'm at Nicholas Tanek. Just look me up on Facebook. Look me up on Twitter. Instead of Instagram, I'm at Nick Tanek. But there's also Friends Kinky on Twitter and Friends Kinky on Instagram as well. So yeah, just look up Nicholas Tanek, buy your kinky friends, buy the coolest way to kill yourself, and just be kinky, support everybody. It's getting late, my friend. My dom is calling me. Remember the cardinal rule: be cool, be kind, and keep an open mind. Have a great weekend and stay kinky. Take care.